So basically, I live really, everything in Stockholm is close to water, and my studio is right next to the water, where all these ships are passing. It's not that many, but they move my imagination, I think.
So do you have a window that kind of looks out directly onto the sea in the studio?
Yeah, there's a window out. Basically, it's just a few ships that I see. They carry cement from the island of Jutland. That's, I don't know, I think 10-hour boat ride. It's and then they lay here anchored for a few hours or over the night, making these low hums. And there's something quite friendly about it that I really like.
That's what do you mean by low hum? What sort of sound?
Like their engines when they're when they sometimes keep their engine on. I think there is something with their power, or I don't know why they do it, but they often keep their engines going overnight. I don't know, staying alive purposes. So it's like a presence, a sonic presence during the night, because I can hear it to my home as well, and there's something I really like about it, I guess.
So you can hear it even if you're indoors?
Yeah, I have kind of sensitive ears, I think.
Probably helps.
Yeah. So that's really low pitch sound, so it kind of goes through everything, and I usually don't like being disturbed by sounds, but I do enjoy those boat sounds. Because there's something outerworldly or something quite magic about it. Things that float in water and are huge, and I don't know. There's just something that really ticks my imagination, I guess.
It's like the sound that whales make as well, isn't it? That kind of low hum. It's just something quite magical about it.
Yeah, they do. But it's kind of interesting, because back in the 50s or 60s, I don't know, when the radios in that time couldn't produce the sub-frequencies, so every time you hear whale sounds, you pitch them up 10 times. So people think that whales singing high pitches, but the pitch you hear is just because that's what people thought they sounded like. But in fact, they sound more like a bus engine, or like something really low. So whale sounds is really sub or infra sub bass. I find that quite extraordinary, actually.
I guess it's because it's so low down in the kind of water pressure that in order for that sound to carry, it needs to kind of be that low,
yeah,
doesn't
exactly.
it?
Yeah, and it can carry for, I think that it can carry like for percentages of the planet, those whale sounds, and I don't want to say a too big number, but it's really long distances that can communicate with those sounds, because these low sound waves with these really long ranges.
I was speaking to someone recently, having a conversation about when the Bee Gees, when they wrote Jive Talking, they took inspiration from the car going over the bridge on the way to the studio, and they took that rhythm and they worked it into the music and gave that song its beat. Can you do a similar thing with the kind of sounds you're hearing from the ocean? Can you directly take inspiration from it and incorporate it into your music in a very real way?
I think when it comes to drones or sounds that are single pitch, I think I've been doing that my entire life. I remember singing to the vacuum cleaner when some grown-up was vacuuming at home when I was a kid. And I think I've always had a connection to technical sounds that way, singing on top of things, like on top of that sound. I think I kind of forgot about that, and also because technology is so able these days of reproducing anything or sampling anything, I kind of almost lost that fascination of, I think if I could have recorded a thing as a kid, I would have a different approach to sounds than I do now. I think I might have sonically have a too grown up relationship to sound. Maybe I should start exploring that more naturalistic or childlike experience of how things sound, and use more of natural or drones from the life around me. I mean, both me and Emmanuel, my producer, were big fans of David Lynch and the way his movie sound, and I know it's used a lot of natural drones there. Did you see the Chernobyl miniseries?
I did not. I'm not a massive TV guy, to be honest.
No, I'm not either. Actually, that was great. The music there is made by Hildur Gudnason, the Icelandic composer, and it's really, really good.
Is this the guy that did the music for Black Panther as well?
No, it's a woman in. She's fairly young. I don't know her. I think she might be in my age, slightly younger, perhaps. She also did the music for Joker. It's great,
okay.
Orchestral, almost classical music. It's really, really good. I think, but that music for Chernobyl, I mean, that was a really interesting topic as well. But it was made a lot of natural drones from. They even recorded the power plant itself and made music out of it. And what was so interesting when I saw the film is that I didn't even think about the fact there was music the first time I watched it. And my friend said, "Did you hear the music?" And I said, "No, I didn't hear any music." And when I watch it again, it's like full of music, and it was just so complete with the film itself. So I hadn't thought of it, which is, I guess, what excellent film music is supposed to be doing.
Yeah, it triggers something subconscious in you that affects you without you realizing.
Yeah, for sure.
Is that a similar effect you ever look to achieve in your own music? Where you put things in that you kind of want to try and subconsciously impact people?
I think it's quite the contrary for me. People often think my music sounds cinematic, which is probably true in a way, but I think my music asks for too much attention to work that way. It's steals too much attention in a way that doesn't really work with film. So I think a lot of people have thought they can use my music in films, but it doesn't really fit the film because it takes away all the attention from what's going on in the movie.
Do you think that would be the same if you used an instrumental version of it? If you took the vocals off?
No, of course it would be different, and I'm sure there are a lot of places it could be used. I guess it's something I've thought about, the fact that I'm often trying to put in, at least up until this album now, I've been trying to put in a lot of information, or possibly too much information, just like really filling the music with information everywhere, like a collage. And I guess I'm getting more and more curious about trying to just paint a simple line instead. I'm not there yet, but that's something I'm really looking forward to learn more about.
Do you think that's like a sign of maturation in a musician? You seem to see it a lot, this kind of decluttering of the mix and only leaving in what's necessary as someone progresses.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm not saying I have matured, but I can totally see. I mean, the fact that I really want to simplify things is something I have noticed, and I think so. And I think even more, it's about understanding that I will not be able to do everything. I will not be able to reach everyone, or be able to express every emotion, or fill every need of music, or peak, or whatever. It's like, I think that's the mature side of it, the realization of this is what I do, and the randomness about it is the only thing that I can really control. I can just do music, and people will receive it, and I think the creative process, I've had this feeling that you can control it, but really you're just following things and trying to just do something you find that is nice for the moment, and there's not much more possible to do than that. There's a kind of calm side to that.
Yeah, can that be quite a liberating revelation once you realize that you won't ever really be in control? Does it then kind of free you to a certain extent?
Yeah, definitely. I've always been connected to Brian Eno's music, not always knowing about it, but I really enjoyed the Rattle and Hum album by U2 when I was a kid, and those ambient sounds there, and what he did, and how he impacted that music. and a lot of different other music he's been in touch with, I've learned that he has often been a fan of randomness, or just taking a perspective and running with it. And for me, that has been a very late... I've explored that late in my life, to just... I don't have a chance to control everything anyway, and my composing is just me following ideas in my head, and recording it will always... It will be good no matter what perspective you take, and if you possibly go really wrong, then you can do it again. But not feeling like this has to be the perfect recording is very liberating, and it makes me so much more calm than wanting to produce something perfect.
Yeah. Do you feel like it makes the emotion of the music more pure?
I mean, it does. And this album I've done now is probably the easiest to connect to, because it's just really me playing, performing, entertaining someone on the other side of the sound. So I'm really happy about how it turned out. The fact that it's so simple. And
was it always gonna be this simple, or was that something that unveiled itself through the process? Did you initially develop it as more of a dense mix and then pull things out, or was it always taking shape in this form?
I mean, I remember telling Emmanuel, the producer, and my friend, that I wanted this to be simple. I told him like a couple of years ago, I want to make a piano album, and I want it to take 6 months to finish, and that's the way it's going to be. And still, when we decided to work together, we were still patching synthesizers and making experiments with MIDI and connecting instruments serially. But after, when Christmas arrived at 2019, we thought maybe we should just try a few piano recordings after the new year and see what happens there. And so we did, and then we realized this is what we love, and this is what's going to be. This is what we want it to be. So we scrapped all the other recordings and just recorded everything in this kind of entertainer quality of someone just performing for a small audience. The whole idea of the music came from me doing these little shows on Instagram Live before the pandemic, actually.
Out of the curve.
Yeah, for sure. It was just by chance, because that was Real World, my record label, asking me when we released the previous album. They asked me to do just a little stream on my phone, and I thought it was a ridiculous idea, because I thought I have made this album. It took me years, and it's made perfectly like how I want it, and now you want me to just play something. I couldn't understand the point in that, because I had made this music that was so finished and tidied up and mixed and perfect. But immediately I loved the whole format of it. It was just an instant concert, and it really helped me in understanding a different perspective of recording music and writing music, and that was a pivotal point for me, actually, in hindsight.
Yeah, it's interesting. You were talking a little bit about the piano there, and when you brought that in, and it's one of the things on the album that, within the simplicity, seems to give it a real momentum and keeps it constantly pushing forward. If you think about a song like Go Easy on Me Now, it's the piano in that gives it the sense of forward momentum and driving. Is that because you were exploring with the piano, or where do you think that momentum is coming from with it?
Well, that song was... I started fiddling around with that theme on a synthesizer with a completely different sound, but the music has evolved. In this case, it's just a solo keyboard instrument anyway, so it's... A solo synthesizer and a piano isn't that super different. So it was just one instrument played by two hands all along. So I didn't change that much, but I think I really started exploring the music of Johann Sebastian Bach, like that classical. It's a very simple format, but the music is quite rich, or very rich in his works, of course. He's one of the foundations of modern music, and I got really interested in that. I mean, this Go Easy on Me Now, that piece, it's very simple from a classical perspective, but it was just fun for me to have a song that should be played note by note in a specific way. There's not so much. I don't feel the need for changing a lot when I play that song. This is what the right hand does, and this is what the left hand does, and maybe I do a little minimal variation somewhere, but the song is what it is. So in that sense, it's more like a classical piano piece. It's big fun. I really like that, and it's a lot of what I'm working on right now.
Where about did it come in the process for the record, in terms of the chronology of writing the songs?
That song is actually one of the earlier. I think that might be. I think Trifles is the earliest of all the songs on the album. But Go Easy on Me Now is probably one of those really early songs from the album perspective.
Trifles is another interesting one. Did we get the sound of you whistling on it?
Oh yeah. That also came from. I recorded it for a friend, the demo version of that song. And I thought maybe this song needs a little cherry on top. Why don't I whistle this note here? I think I had heard it in some music that's sort of silly, out of pitch, out of the tonality whistle. And there is just something charming about it, I suppose. There's something about it that says, well, I know this sounds like serious music, but listen to this whistling note and you realize it. You can listen to it in any perspective you want. I'm fine with any way you like it, and I hope you enjoy it, basically.
Well, people only whistle when they're happy.
Yeah, that's true, right? I think I have to agree on that. People whistle when they're happy.
You don't hear anyone whistling when they're sad.
I haven't thought of it that way. No, you're right. I don't know why I haven't thought of that very obvious truth. But all right, I'm going to think about that. Yeah, people only whistle. Or when they're on stage, like me. I always start whistling on stage. So I guess I am in a happy mood when I'm on stage doing that.
Were you keen to put in some of these little kind of happier flourishes when a lot of the record is quite dark topically, or thematically rather? Just to balance out a little bit? Or
Yeah. I guess I don't think it's for balancing it, but I think it's for reference, perhaps. That these little notes on Go Easy on Me Now, that little blue note, the little twitch in the piano melody, I think it's just for reference that, okay, don't think I'm taking this too seriously. This is still playing around. So possibly not for balance, but for just adding that perspective of you can listen to this in a different way if you want to.
Yeah, I guess it adds a little bit more of your personality into it as well. We get more of a full picture of you. We see the different sides to it.
Definitely, yeah.
I wanted to talk a little bit as well. You have some of the songs in this album where there's a metaphor at the heart of it. Oppenheimer would be an example of that. Does making that clear metaphorical connection to your own experience make you think differently about it when you draw that comparison and you see it in a similar light?
I mean, that song Oppenheimer, I understand that is an analogy for something else. Is that the word you use, analogy, or do you metaphor, you said?
Yeah, analogy or metaphor.
I mean, from the beginning, I just wanted to describe, I guess I just wanted to sing about that age and I mean, Robert Oppenheimer wasn't even on the Bikini Islands, as I remember it. I think there were other Americans taking care of those experiments. Millions of suns over Bikini Island. But after having written it and thinking about it, I mean, I've all along understood there is a metaphor for different things. But I guess that the main theme is probably blow the whole thing away. I guess
it looks a little our ability to hurt one another, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. What do you hear in it? How do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's the way I kind of read it was our ability maybe to hurt other people without our realizing it. But it's almost it's weird that we have this innate thing within us just to harm others. Like we can't seem to escape it as a society and on an individual level.
Yeah, true.
It's strange. I guess you could look at that as well with Habibi, the second song on the album, is touching upon that too, in a more direct, realist way, I suppose.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, that Habibi song, it's so strange because when that was posted, I knew it was a political song, what it meant, but it was just, I was still surprised of a few comments about it, and I think one comment that was not a Loney Dear fan, just someone that had found the song, and he asked, writing, "You grew up rich, didn't you?" And I thought that was interesting because I did certainly not grow up poor. I mean, in the sense that we didn't have the necessary things in our lives. I had a bed and we had food on the table and everything. And so in a sense, I felt like, because I often have that perspective, like if I can do music for a living and pay my rent, that means I'm really rich. That's my perspective. So my initial reaction to that was that I wanted to reply to him, yeah, I grew up rich for sure. You know, I have been safe all my life. And I guess I was just surprised. The view on immigration and the view of sharing, I mean, it's tax money, so it's not really my money anyway. And I guess I don't have a full understanding of national economics, but it would surprise me to see that we couldn't share more. I mean, I think there's money here and there that could be spent on those who need it more.
Why do you think the person made that comment?
I think it was the reason he asked was, you can afford to have that idea that we can have immigrants come into our countries because you can afford to spare that money on someone else. And so I guess, like, your parents had employment their whole lives. No one else came here and took it. I mean, I don't really know what made him say that, but I could understand it in a way. And in a way, I guess he's right. I guess I was just, if it would be connected to personal economy, that would be really sad. But I don't think it is. And I'm not by any way saying I'm a rich person. I'm just saying that I have the necessary things. And it made me curious. But I also understand that from a society point of view, I guess there are limits for what the society can afford. And I guess economical engine needs to be running smoothly. And I suppose if you pour too much money into those who don't have money, maybe that money doesn't go other places where it does its magic, I suppose. But it's still, I just have a feeling that we all can spare.
Do a little more.
A few things. Yeah.
It's the gulf of the inequality, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's hard to speculate on the background of the person making that comment, but you would imagine even the difference between them and the immigrants trying to come into the country is beyond imagination.
Yeah, I guess that's what's the big, that song is a lot about, not directly, but it certainly affects people getting on boats in the middle of the night and dying on the Mediterranean Ocean. And it's hard to see who is it that doesn't want to help. But I guess from their perspective, they shouldn't get on those boats to start with because Europe is full, you know? I mean, it's all horrible.
It's hard to put yourself in the mindset of that person, though, when they're coming from a war-torn country. And it's crazy to think about that mindset where getting on a boat and potentially sailing to your death is a better alternative to where you're coming from and where you're living at that time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so hard to grasp.
Did you find the ocean taking on different context for you as you progressed through the making of this record?
I think I've had a really one-dimensional thing still about the ocean. I think I'm just, I guess, talking about the ocean when talking about this album maybe teaches me a few things, but I think for me it's all about distances and darkness and different levels of depth. I don't know how to answer that, actually. There is just certain untangible magic to it that I don't know how to put in words, and I guess that's why I'm a bit curious about making poetry about it, I guess.
Is that a similar feeling to say when you look up at the stars at night and you see them stretching across the sky?
Yeah, definitely. It's that. Yeah, I mean, you can't. It doesn't matter how much you think about it. You're still not gonna understand what even you see. It's. I think that's a good comparison. Yeah, and it's kind of mind blowing that it's like that. Still in this modern society, a starry sky is still the craziest thing you can see. I think that's quite magic.
It's tapping into something kind of ancient, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I actually I've been really interested in astronomy, and I remember an old friend of mine, her mother, she told her mother that Emil he reads a lot about astronomy now. It kind of makes him upset and stressed out, and her reply was, he can't read that's not good for him. And it's I mean, I've done that, and that didn't work well, so he should read other things. So I have this kind of addict thing going on with astronomy, that I know that I want to read about it, and I want to read heavy books about black holes, but I also know it kind of creates this different kind of black hole inside of me, where I think the big problem is not the distances, but it's time and the perspective on time you have in astronomy, where a million years is just nothing, and when you have these really long distances, time and distance kind of interact, because when you get, if you have a couple of million of light years, that's going to mean that information is going to take that amount of time also to travel, and suddenly the distance becomes time itself, because there's no way of bridging that difference. And I guess that could be an analogy to the ocean, and getting somewhere on the ocean, you have to make the distance.
I think it was Carl Sagan who said that studying astronomy rather, should be taught in schools because it humbles you. Would that be a fair assessment of your experience, kind of looking into it a little bit?
Well, I mean, I like Carl Sagan. I haven't seen so much about it, but I mean, he's such a cool person. I don't think it humbles me, no. It just makes me upset, I would say. But I'm really curious about it, but I don't feel humbled. It's maybe I do. Maybe that's what I'm feeling, but it's upsetting to read about very long timelines. And I guess it's the same thing about when you start realizing that the evolution and geology and everything that is also kind of connected to those same areas, that if you start thinking about our origins, it's just going to be ridiculous how short we lived as humans, and it's kind of hard to find yourself in that. And those things you think are different are important. They are still important, but when you think of it in that timeline, it looks kind of ridiculous. But still, a broken heart or a past friend, a person not alive anymore, still that is horrible. And it's hard to grasp how our emotions can be that strong when we're so small and just little dots in the timeline. I guess the sea, the ocean, can be a metaphor for time, but when I've been trying to explain why the ocean is in such presence in my music or in my mind these days. I think it's, from what I understand, a lot of people find that what's going on underwater is a symbol for the subconscious.
The Mariana Trench.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if that's a scientific fact that water means the subconscious, but it makes a lot of sense. And if we should believe in those old thoughts, then it can make sense why that means a lot to me.
Oh, I mean, we could draw an interesting parallel there between what we were speaking about earlier with Oppenheimer and our ability to harm one another. The thing we do with the ocean is that, we're polluting it so badly that we're almost harming it without realizing it because we can't see that tangible impact. We could also look at that in terms of we can hurt ourselves and not see the impact that it's having upon our subconscious.
Yeah, true. Yeah, for real. And then it's hard to sort out what it is that doesn't really matter. I think in this day and age, we don't really know. I mean, we all know that using a smartphone can be kind of stressful, the way you interact with it. But I guess a lot of people still don't know for sure. I mean, we know that tobacco, that's kind of bad for you, but we don't know for sure if, well, maybe we do. Maybe being connected all the time, it's painful and it's stressful, and we're losing ourselves, I guess. I think I love the technology, and I love being able to connect to people, but the fact that you can never really disconnect is, that cannot be a good thing.
Is creating art and making music an opportunity for you to do that, though?
You mean taking that break? You mean getting away
almost
from it?
Getting back in touch with yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's why I love concerts so much, because you are really disconnected from all the other things. You are in the music, whether you want it or not, because you're in the middle of a song. I mean, I've experienced a few seconds here and there during my career where I've been thinking about things while I'm playing a song, which can be quite amusing also. Like, you have an audience in front of you and you're playing music and realizing that, oh, I'm thinking about this thing now. That's kind of interesting. But still, on the statistically, it's a haven for freedom to play a concert, because you are just in the music. It's a really good feeling, and it's almost like a drug, I guess.
Is that the same feeling you get when you're writing a song? Are you absorbed in it in a similar way?
Yeah, there is a phase of writing, like when the song is about to be finished, and that's such a good feeling. But I think what's so interesting about that creative phase of writing music is that it seems to me to not be very egoistical. Like when the song is finished, you can have the feelings of, wow, someone should hear this. This is a really good song. But in the very moment of creating it, writing it, there is just something different happening. Just this pure love for music, which is that's hard to grasp. Why is music so powerful? Like, people have been doing this for thousands of years, exploring and innovating and finding new structures in music, and still today I'm able to write just a few notes, and it seems sort of new to me, at least. That's just very exciting.
Yeah, that's really fascinating to think about in the context of what you were saying earlier about feeling really small and how the things that are so important to us can feel insignificant. Does music almost connect you to history in that way? The fact that people have been doing this for so many millennia, does it give you a greater sense of place and connection?
I think the thing about my view of composing is that I used to think of it as being an innovator, that you need to come up with new things, with new ideas, and a lot of the gestures I like comes from the avant-garde music. But wanting to be avant-garde but loving traditional music can be a strange combination. and losing that strong wish to be an innovator, and instead realizing I am just a gardener. I'm composing blocks of already made up things. I'm just putting them in a slightly different combination. It's such a more calm way of viewing music, and I've been struggling my whole life with the thought of what if music ends? Like, what if we have tried every combination? And honestly, I still don't know the proper answer to that, because I still have a fear for there's not so many notes you would like to use in a normal song. You don't have 12 notes to choose from, really. You have 3 or 4 or 5 notes, and I happen to like one of them often. But when you take that perspective of like, well, I don't need to be an innovator. I'm just putting this in an order that I, for the moment, find attractive. It's a relief.
You wonder if that's where technology could come into it, though. Like you saying that we could run out of sounds. You wonder if advancing technology is going to allow us to keep coming up with new things.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, yeah, often when you use the word AI, people would use the quote marks with their fingers and say, well, it's not AI, it's just more algorithms. But I mean, the brain is also algorithms, I suppose. They're just really smart wired. I guess I'm curious about what the digital mind, or what hive minds or neural networks can produce, but it seems that in the end people really enjoy flaws and mistakes, and there will always be a place for the human art, because we do stupid things that machines couldn't do, I think. Like there's just something so attractive about making the wrong decisions that but I mean, of course, computers will be able to reproduce those quirks. I'm sure there will be fantastic music made just by machines themselves, and I don't see a big problem with that. I think it will be a compliment and something different. But yeah, there's something with the human side of music that some artists that you like I can't come up with some. I know a few Swedish singers that I don't like that are really popular here, and I've been saying, like, could you imagine a machine coming up making up this artist? Like, that would be like, put the singing quality to he's not a bad singer, but like, put the main quality to 38%. Like, who in the world would do that? So I think it's all the flaws in human music is going to be more difficult to produce than to produce really fantastic perfect music, I guess.
Have you always been that comfortable with flaws when you're someone who used to be a perfectionist?
No, of course not. I think for me, discovering John Cage as a person has really meant a lot to me. I'm really amused by John Cage, what should we call him? An artist or a composer? Performance artist. What would you...
Performance artist.
How would you label?
I like that.
Yeah, he makes things, but it seems that what I connect the most to is just his person and how he relates to what he does and how he describes it. It makes me happy thinking about his perspective on things. I'm sure he was really smart. I'm not mean that as a businessman, but he was probably smart, realizing people will connect with this if I have this. But he seems to have a big love also just for whatever it is he loves, which I can't put into words.
How much of your development as an artist do you think has come from exploring the works of other people's sounds like that, other artists? And how much has come from exploration on your own and exploring through making music of your own?
I don't think I can answer that. That's a really difficult question. But my first thought was that I think everything comes from others. I haven't made up a single thing. And that would probably be my current answer, that I I am just a gardener. I don't even plant the music. I just sort of tie up some branches here and there, and I cut the thing here. I maybe move a flower, but I have no idea. But I think the wise answer would be that I probably have made almost nothing. I'm just building on top of what other been building on top of others.
We were kind of speaking a moment ago about flaws and the way that every individual is very unique. Do you know, then that adds something to it. Like the very fact that you're making it as your own expression means that it's doing something different, even if it's in a slight way.
Yeah, I mean, of course. And that's what's so magical about it, because I don't add so much that's my own. I mean, I play traditional instruments. I use my voice. I sing lyrics. And still, it's me doing it. And you can immediately tell that it is me. And so I think you're right in that. I think my superpower is that I'm adding presence to the music. I mean, for me, concerts has become what I cherish the most, or just like the interaction with a couple of ears. I guess that's where my jazz background also makes most sense. The fact that you design every moment for the moment. I guess I probably add everything, but it's just not. I just like the thought of it's not a big deal. I know I don't talk about music with myself in this way all the time. I think it's really important taking a responsibility composing. Right now I'm super into the next music I'm writing. It's in a way of classical writing with very thought out parts in left and right hands on piano. And I take that really, really seriously, that every part of it should be worthy of something. It's just for myself, the realization is that I don't need to make up new music. I just need to make this well thought out, I suppose. But when it comes to the concert and when it comes to singing and meeting an audience, then of course it's me doing it. And I can totally see the point in me doing that, definitely.
When do you feel the greatest sense of connection with your music?
I think it's when you want to win someone over in a room. I really enjoy playing for someone that doesn't know what they're going to be able to hear. I think during the start of my career, I really enjoyed the support shows where I played bigger artists, and the little time you have there, you have your 20 minutes to try to win over an audience. I think I really enjoyed that. Maybe it's some kind of sport even, to let's see who we can win today. It's or a religious perspective, like a pastor, like we're gonna win some souls tonight. I think I still like that. I guess, I mean, I'm slowly coming out of the shadows as myself, and understanding me as an entertainer is an interesting way of understanding myself. The fact that I really enjoy talking to an audience and figuring out what we're going to do together, which is me entertaining them or making music with or for them. That's interesting, and I do think I have a talent for that. But it was really late that I started discovering that and starting enjoying it. Right now, I think my big challenge is to start enjoying myself as a person on stage, just looking the way I do. Not that I'm especially ugly, but just it's like accepting that's what I look like on a stage. I'm not the coolest person you'll find, but I make pretty good music and I sing really well. Accepting myself as myself on stage or in an interview or on a television show, or I should start understanding that my flaws as a physical person can be equally interesting as musical flaws, I suppose.